I'd been in the neighborhood for exactly 9 months when the driveway incident happened. 9 peaceful months of minding my own business, restoring my grandfather's vintage Ford Mustang in the garage, and settling into my first home after 8 years in the Army. Then Karen Lockhart decided to park her Mercedes SUV directly across my driveway one Saturday morning when I was already running late for work. I stared in disbelief at the gleaming black vehicle blocking my exit, coffee mug still in hand. It was 7:15 a.m., and I needed to be at my small auto repair shop by 8 o'clock to meet a client. Karen's vehicle was angled perfectly to ensure I couldn't maneuver around it. I pulled out my phone and dialed her number, which all residents had been strongly encouraged to save during the mandatory HOA welcome meeting. "Hello?" Her voice was sharp despite the early hour. "Hi, Karen, this is Wade Nichols from 1422 Oak Ridge. Your car is blocking my driveway, and I need to leave for work." A pause. "Oh, I'm in a board meeting right now. I'll move it in about 30 minutes. I need to leave now. I have clients waiting." "Well, Wade, perhaps you should have considered parking on the street last night. The HOA is conducting driveway inspections today, and your project car is leaking oil." "My car isn't leaking oil," I said, walking toward my pristine driveway. "And it's in my garage anyway. Our cameras suggest otherwise." She hung up. "Cameras?" I looked around and saw nothing but pristine lawns and cookie-cutter houses. What cameras was she talking about? I called the non-emergency police line, but they said they'd need at least an hour to send someone out for a blocked driveway. By then, I'd missed my client. I texted my client to reschedule and settled in for a confrontation. Only later would I discover the oil leak had been deliberately poured by Karen herself, as my own security cameras would reveal. The cameras I'd installed after my deployment to Afghanistan had become a habit. Situational awareness died hard. 4 discrete cameras covered my property from different angles, capturing not only my driveway but also portions of the street. I hadn't reviewed the footage in months since moving in, but now I had reason to. Karen finally moved her car at 8:45 a.m., strutting up to my door afterward in her perfectly pressed pantsuit, clipboard in hand. "Wade, we need to discuss your property violations," she announced when I opened the door. "The only violation I'm aware of is you blocking my driveway for nearly 2 hours. I replied calmly. "That was necessary for our inspection. Now, about that oil leak, there is no oil leak. And even if there were, it would be inside my closed garage, not visible to your supposed cameras." Her smile tightened. "The HOA has authority to monitor all exterior spaces for compliance. Show me where that's written in the covenant I signed." Karen waved her hand dismissively. "I'm issuing you a warning. Clean up the oil and move that eyesore of a car, or you'll face daily fines. The Mustang stays. It was my grandfather's. Sentiment doesn't exempt you from the rules, Wade. This is Pinecrest Estates, not some military barracks." The comment stung, but I kept my face neutral. "Is there anything else, Karen?" "Yes. The board has also noted you installed security cameras without approval. Those need to come down immediately." "Not happening." I began to close the door. She jammed her foot in the opening. "I don't think you understand how things work here. I've been president of this HOA for 12 years. I know everyone in City Hall. I know the police chief. I know the bank managers who hold most of the mortgages in this neighborhood. Cross me, and life gets complicated." I leaned closer. "And I don't think you understand who you're threatening. My cameras stay. My car stays. And if you ever block my driveway again, there will be consequences." She withdrew her foot, eyes narrowing. "We'll see about that." That evening I reviewed my security footage from the previous night. Sure enough, at 2:13 a.m., a figure had approached my driveway, poured something from a container, and hurried away. The image was clear enough: Karen Lockhart, dressed in black, manufacturing evidence against me. But that wasn't all I found. As I continued reviewing older footage, a pattern emerged. Every Friday night for the past 3 months, cars would arrive at Karen's house across the street and 2 doors down. Not just any cars, expensive ones. The same vehicles would leave in the early morning hours, drivers often stumbling to their doors. The gatherings looked innocent enough on the surface, just a social event. But something felt off about the secretive nature and the types of guests. I decided to watch more carefully going forward. The following Friday, I positioned myself near my front window as cars began arriving at Karen's house around 9 p.m. Men in expensive suits, women in cocktail dresses. Through my zoom lens, I could see them handing Karen envelopes before entering. Curious. Just then, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Patricia Mills, my next-door neighbor, looking anxious. "Wade, I saw what Karen did to you last weekend," she said in a hushed voice. "Blocking your driveway like that." "You did? I see a lot from my home office window. I'm a remote accountant," she explained. "Karen's been targeting you since you moved in. Why would she do that?" Patricia glanced nervously toward Karen's house. "Your property. It's the largest lot on the block, corner placement, and you got it for a steal from your grandfather's estate. And Karen tried to buy it when it went on the market. She's been buying up properties in the neighborhood through various LLCs. I've seen the paperwork. My firm handles accounts for the county records office." I invited Patricia in, and over coffee, she revealed more. Karen had been systematically forcing out homeowners through exorbitant HOA fines, then purchasing their homes at below-market rates through shell companies. She's turned at least 8 single-family homes into short-term rentals, Patricia explained. It's against the very HOA regulations she enforces on everyone else. That doesn't explain the Friday night gatherings, I said. Patricia's expression darkened. Those aren't just parties, Wade. What do you mean? I've said too much already. Just be careful. Karen has friends in high places. After Patricia left, I was more determined than ever to find out what was happening at those Friday gatherings. I adjusted my cameras to better capture Karen's property without infringing on her privacy rights, focusing only on the public areas like the street and walkway. 2 weeks passed with Karen escalating her campaign against me. Citations appeared on my door daily: improper trash can placement, unapproved mailbox design, excessive water usage. All fabricated, all requiring administrative fees to process. Then came the watershed moment. I returned home from work to find a tow truck attempting to remove my grandfather's Mustang from my garage. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, blocking the truck's path. The driver looked uncomfortable. "HOA called us. Said this vehicle was in violation and needed impoundment. It's in my garage. On my property. Look, man, I'm just doing my job." I called the police, and thankfully, an officer arrived quickly. After seeing my vehicle was properly stored in my own garage, he informed the tow company they had no grounds to remove it. As the tow truck drove away, I noticed Karen watching from across the street, phone to her ear. Her expression was thunderous. That night, I received an email notification that the HOA had levied a $5,000 fine against me for repeated violations and obstruction of HOA business. The email stated that if not paid within 30 days, a lien would be placed on my property. It was time to stop playing defense. The next day, I visited the county records office and requested all documentation related to Pinecrest Estates HOA. Patricia had been right. Karen was listed as an officer in multiple LLCs that had purchased properties in our neighborhood. More concerning, the HOA's financial records showed discrepancies. Large sums transferred to maintenance reserves that didn't match any actual maintenance projects. I also spoke with former residents who had sold their homes after HOA disputes. The pattern was clear: harassment, impossible fines, then an offer to resolve the situation by selling to one of Karen's companies at 70 to 80% of market value. But the Friday gatherings remained a mystery until I ran into Derek, Karen's former landscaper, at my shop. He'd brought in his truck for repairs and recognized my address. "You live in the Dragon Lady's territory, huh?" he said while I checked his timing belt. You could say that. Did she fire you? Worse. Threatened to report me to immigration if I didn't do some extra work at her weekend events. I paused. What kind of extra work? Derek looked around as if Karen might be listening. She runs a high-stakes poker game. Politicians, developers, some cops, even. Buy-in starts at 10 grand. That explained the envelopes. I heard they do more than cards, Derek continued. Some nights there are girls brought in. Young ones. My blood ran cold. Did you witness this? Enough to quit and risk her reporting me. My cousin works for her now. Says it's getting worse, more drugs, bigger bets. Last week, he overheard someone talking about using a house on the block for something bigger. My house? I asked, remembering Patricia's comment about my lot size. Derek shrugged. Could be. The dragon lady wants it bad, from what I heard. That night, I installed 2 more cameras with better night vision and sound capability, still careful to aim them only at public areas. I also backed up all my footage to a secure cloud service. The next Friday, I watched the now familiar parade of luxury vehicles arrive at Karen's house. This time, I noted license plates and faces where possible. One face stood out, our district's state senator, followed by 2 city council members. Around midnight, Karen stepped outside with a man in an expensive suit. My camera's microphone picked up fragments of their conversation. Property perfect for our needs, the man was saying. I'm working on it, Karen replied. The owner is proving difficult, but he'll be gone soon. He better be. We've invested too much to let some nobody with a military complex ruin the operation. Trust me, by next month, his house will be ours. The conversation confirmed my suspicions. Whatever illicit operation Karen was running, she needed my property to expand it. The next morning, I found my car's tires slashed in my driveway. All 4 of them. The security footage showed 2 men doing the damage at 3 a.m., their faces covered but their build and gait matching 2 regular attendees of Karen's gatherings. I filed a police report, but without clear facial identification, there was little they could do. The responding officer, however, seemed unusually dismissive, barely taking notes before leaving. His name tag read Nichols, a name I'd seen on Karen's visitor list. This was bigger than I'd thought. Karen didn't just have friends in high places, she had people on her payroll throughout local government. A conventional approach wouldn't work. I needed allies and evidence, irrefutable evidence. I reached out to Patricia, who agreed to help compile financial records showing Karen's property scheme. Next, I contacted several former residents who'd been forced out, gathering their statements about Karen's tactics. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. My client Derek's cousin, still working for Karen, offered to wear a recording device during one of the gatherings. He was scared but more afraid of being implicated if things went south. I can get you the guest list too, he said during our clandestine meeting at my shop. Names, positions, how much they're playing for. She keeps meticulous records. That would be extremely helpful, I said. But be careful. Don't take any unnecessary risks. 2 days later, my driveway was blocked again, this time by a cement truck. The driver claimed the HOA had ordered sidewalk repairs and my driveway needed to be blocked indefinitely. I showed him my property survey proving the sidewalk in question wasn't on my property, and therefore not under HOA jurisdiction. The driver made a call, looked uncomfortable, then left without doing any work. That afternoon, I received a notice that the HOA board had scheduled an emergency meeting to vote on my eviction for creating a hostile environment and threatening board members. The meeting was set for 7 p.m. that evening, giving me no time to prepare a defense. I decided not to attend. Instead, I used the time to consolidate my evidence and develop a strategy. If Karen wanted to play hardball, I was ready. The next morning, a formal letter arrived stating I had been voted out of my home by the board and had 30 days to vacate. The document was signed by Karen and notarized, illegally, as I had received no formal notice of charges or opportunity to defend myself. I took the letter directly to a real estate attorney, who confirmed the eviction was unenforceable. However, he warned me that fighting it would be costly and time-consuming. These HOA tyrants bank on people giving up, he explained. They have the resources to drag things out until you're financially drained. I'm not giving up, I assured him. That Friday, Derek's cousin came through with the recording. The audio was damning, explicit discussions of rigged city contracts, bribes to officials, and plans for expanding into more serious gambling operations. Karen's voice was clearly identifiable, giving instructions about handling cash and keeping the girls quiet. Most importantly, there was a clear conversation about me. The veteran at 1422 won't sell, Karen was heard saying. I've tried everything short of burning the place down. That could be arranged, replied a male voice. Not yet. I have another idea. Chief, can your department find something in his garage? Veterans often bring back souvenirs they shouldn't have. Like weapons? Replied another voice. That would be convenient. Exactly. A raid finding illegal weapons would solve our problem nicely. They were plotting to plant evidence and have me arrested. I had to move quickly. I compiled all my evidence, financial records, witness statements, security footage, and the audio recording, and made multiple copies. I sent one set to my attorney, another to Patricia for safekeeping, and kept one myself. Then I sent an email to Karen with a single line. I know about the poker games, the bribes, and your plans for my house. Back off, or everything goes public. Her response came within minutes. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Whatever you think you know, you can't prove. Back down now, and maybe you walk away intact. The threat was clear. I decided to accelerate my timeline. The next morning, I woke to the sound of breaking glass. 3 men in dark clothing were attempting to enter my home through the back door. My security system immediately alerted me, and I called 911 while retreating to my bedroom where I kept my legally owned firearm. The dispatcher seemed strangely unhurried despite my report of a home invasion in progress. Officers will be dispatched when available, she said mechanically. 3 men are breaking into my home right now, I emphasized. Sir, we have limited resources. Your call has been logged. Something was very wrong. I ended the call and dialed the state police instead, explaining the situation and my concerns about local police involvement in corruption. The intruders were now inside my home. Through my security app, I could see them searching rooms methodically. One placed something in my garage, likely the planted weapons Karen had mentioned. I remained silent, gun ready, as they approached my bedroom. Just as they reached my door, sirens wailed in the distance, but not local police sirens. State troopers. The intruders fled, leaving behind a duffel bag in my garage. When the state police arrived, I showed them my security footage of the break-in and the planted bag, which contained an unregistered handgun with the serial number filed off and a significant amount of cocaine. The state officers were professional and thorough, taking my full statement and the evidence I'd gathered about Karen's operation. One officer, a sergeant named Rodriguez, seemed particularly interested in the corruption angle. We've had suspicions about this jurisdiction for some time, he explained. But penetrating the local networks has been difficult. I have recordings implicating the police chief and several officers, I told him. His eyebrows rose. That would be extremely valuable to our ongoing investigation. I provided copies of everything, including the footage of Karen pouring oil on my driveway, the Friday night gatherings, and the audio recordings from inside. 2 days later, my security cameras captured a pre-dawn raid on Karen's house. State police, FBI agents, and representatives from the district attorney's office swarmed the property, emerging with boxes of documents and computers. Karen herself was led out in handcuffs, still wearing her silk pajamas, face contorted with rage. When she spotted me watching from my driveway, she lunged in my direction, screaming obscenities until officers restrained her. The investigation uncovered everything: illegal gambling, prostitution, bribes to public officials, money laundering through the HOA accounts, and the systematic property fraud scheme. Karen had been running her operation for years, gradually expanding her influence and corruption throughout the community. 17 people were ultimately arrested, including the police chief, 2 city council members, and the district's state senator. Karen faced the most charges, 43 counts ranging from racketeering to conspiracy to intimidation of witnesses. The fallout was immediate and far-reaching. The HOA was dissolved pending a complete audit and reorganization. Property owners who had been forced out were offered settlements. The city launched an ethics review of all contracts approved during Karen's reign of influence. As for me, I was approached by several residents about helping form a new, transparent homeowners association focused on actually serving the community. Patricia was particularly enthusiastic, suggesting we could create something that actually helped people rather than exploiting them. "You should run for president," she said one evening as we sat on my porch, watching new families move into homes that had been Karen's short-term rentals. "People trust you after what you did." I laughed. "I think I've had enough of HOA politics for a lifetime." "Fair enough," Patricia smiled. "But at least consider joining the board. We need people who'll stand up against corruption." 6 months later, I attended the first meeting of the new Pinecrest Community Association, deliberately not called an HOA, as a regular member, not an officer. Patricia had been elected president, running on a platform of transparency and minimal intervention in homeowners' lives. The night of the meeting, I drove home in my grandfather's fully restored Mustang, which now sat proudly in my driveway without fear of citation. As I pulled in, I noticed a news alert on my phone. Karen Lockhart had been sentenced to 15 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to reduced charges. I smiled as I walked into my home that no one could take from me. The security cameras were still in place, though they served more as a memory than a necessity now. The community had transformed, neighbors actually speaking to each other, children playing freely in yards without fear of violations. Sometimes standing your ground against a bully doesn't just solve your own problems. It liberates everyone who was afraid to speak up. As I settled onto my couch, I raised a toast to my grandfather, whose home had become the unlikely battleground for reclaiming an entire community. And somewhere in a federal prison, Karen Lockhart was finally learning a lesson about consequences that was long overdue.